Dunkin'. Dunkin's got to be the worst of the commercially available coffee. It's if it wasn't for New York and New Jersey and contractors in general, I don't think they'd be in business because their coffee tastes like garbage, and all of them taste the same. It's like there's some chemical that Dunkin' puts in their coffee to make their whole chain of coffees all taste the same. So it's kind of weird. But what works about Dunkin' is that if you're trying to get somebody coffee or pick something up for some contractors, it's always a place to go. So I don't know, it works for them, but it's no good coffee. Coffee rolls, the coffee rolls are good. They're slamming. It is cold in here today, so we're gonna get this heater on. Let's get into this. So for today, the plan is going to be to try to contact the guy that has done some work for me in the past, see if I can get the frame welded up, bring it over to him. However, it's supposed to snow today, so if it starts snowing, I may just stay home and start processing some of these parts and cleaning them up in the parts washer, and see what we can basically do around here in the garage, because we're kind of on hold until I get this frame welded up and able to have parts bolted back onto it. But we did get a new package in the mail, so we're gonna open that up. It's package time. So I thought maybe as these packages come, we could unbox them together and lay out all the parts, everything that's had to be purchased for this thing to be finished. So we got a valve cover gasket to seal that up, and grips I chose. These are the soft compound. Normally when I used to ride it on the track, I used mediums and always half waffle, but these are softs. I figure give it a shot, and they're soft compound half waffle. Side box covers, new mud flap. These are the valve stem seals. We're gonna replace those. I don't think it leaks oil, but we're just gonna replace them just because. Shock fluid. The Yuasa battery. New shifter fork. That 17's been crashed so many times since I'm gonna be rebuilding the bottom end. The potential's there for this spline to be bent on that one, so it was a cheap part, so I'll have it, since I'll have it apart anyway, I'm just gonna replace it to provide that seal, also a better sealing surface, be less likely to leak oil. SKF fork seal kit. Trail Tech Vapor, that's what we're gonna be putting on for our speedometer. Oh, it's just, I guess they're the same, just different different labeling. It's the same same fork oil. 15 tooth front sprocket. Oh, also, I like the super sprockets are great because they have the holes in them, and you'll see I always safety wire on my front sprocket. I think this is the cylinder. Yep. So we got an OEM Honda cylinder, and to have the one that's on it refurbished and machined or rehung, it's almost as much money as it is to buy a new one. It's a shame, but if you were to have that one re-nickel-sealed and honed and properly machined, you'd be at almost the same price as you would just to buy an OEM cylinder. So I am gonna take measurements on this, and I'm gonna verify them to the cylinder that's on that, just to see how far worn that one is compared to the brand new one, and like be able to gauge that for the future as well. I think what I'm gonna do is just take the frame over to the guy that may be able to weld it, and I was gonna call, but he might tell me no. So if I show up there with the frame and just be like, hey man, it's only gonna be like a 15-minute job, can you just do it? He might be more inclined to do it. So give it a shot. Get this thing strapped in. Perfect. Just gonna show up and see if he'll do it. I got the frame in the truck, and his front door is only open, I think, like 1 day a week. The place I'm taking it is Jensen's engine technology. He's done some work in the past for me. A funny story. One time I got a carburetor rebuild kit for that 2008 CRF 450R, and it came with all the gaskets, new needles, a new fuel float seat, and everything. And so I was taking the old one apart, and I thought, I got a new float valve seat, I might as well take the old one out. So it was tough to take out, and I actually had to destroy it to remove it. And I should have looked at the parts more carefully, because when I went to go put the new one in, it was the wrong one. It wasn't the right one. So I was like, oh, I'll just get one off of the OEM parts finder from Rocky Mountain or something. Well, the 2008 CRF 450R, they don't make the float valve seat. You have to buy the whole carburetor body, and that thing was like 600 bucks. So kind of got myself in a bind, and I made up a really good drawing, took it to Jensen's and had him machine me one out of brass, and worked out pretty good. So we'll pull it in here now, see if he'll weld this up for us.
"20 minutes later."
Well, that went good. Really nice guy. We got it welded up. All good. I'll show you here once we get back to the house. We got her done. Got her all welded up. Perfect. So check it out. He did a real good job, and he said when he got into it, the crack actually opened up a little bit, and so he kind of backed it up all the way back to here, and put a nice big fat bead in there. So this will prevent any dirt, water, moisture from accumulating in that crack and potentially growing it. So pretty happy with that, and I'm also happy that now we can proceed with the bike build and not be waiting up on the frame for bolting parts back together. So his name was John, really nice guy. Like you guys saw, I just walked up into their shop and asked if they could, fit it in, and he was very accommodating, super nice. He even preheated the aluminum, and when he saw the gap opening up, he doubled back a little bit to make sure that weld wasn't going to fail in the future. And it sounded to me like he was trying to expand his business. He runs a shop out of Hetlerville, doing machine work and welding, and he gave me his phone number, offered if I ever needed services like that in the future to hit him up, and I definitely will, doing projects like this all the time. So if any of you need service or work something like that, hit me up with a DM and I'll get you in contact with him. I think that he's on Facebook at Jensen's Engine Technologies, and but if you can't find him there, I'll give you his phone number if you send me a DM. So I'm really pumped we got this all sorted out, and I can get it back on the stand. So I just got some lunch. This part is not very glamorous, parts washing. So this is the tank with the kerosene, and I'm going to begin processing these parts, just putting, getting the whole thing in there, getting dirty. Gonna be a lot of splashing. I'm gonna stink later, but that's what's gotta be done. I'm about to get into the swing arm breakdown, and one of the things that's worked good for me in the past is engraving on the pivot and the linkage, and also the main swing arm bearings is the numbers that they are. So I call this 1, 2, 3. These are marked by Honda, so you got right and left right in there, and then port and starboard. So all the needles from each of these are going to go into a container of their own, and from there you can put kerosene and swash it around and clean them up real good. So I don't have anybody to hold the camera, so I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's all done, but it's a good way to organize your parts. Sometimes the swing arm, the chain will actually eat that screw up that holds on the slider, and all that sometimes it's getting destroyed anyway, so you get a channel lock on that, get that trash right out. These little seal pullers are great. It allows you to get in there, pop them off. I got this one super cheap, but one for sure way to know that you need to do this is when you break them open and they smell like a swamp. It's disgusting. So it's a good thing we're doing it. Then once you got the seals out, it's easy to. I got this little magnet. Just go right in there and scoop out the rollers. Here's everything from the swing arm. We got all the bearings and all the guts out of it. Best way to do this, like I was saying, identify each joint by however you want to, and then all the needles go into like a little chemistry container, whatever you want to call it. And we're gonna take these all over to the power washer next, get them cleaned up. They stink pretty bad. We got all the suspension stuff cleaned up, and this bin's ready to go. I'm gonna let these all. There's all the rollers. So everything's labeled that left, right, port, starboard, and then your 3 pivot linkages. Those will dry out overnight. Let all the kerosene evaporate off of them. These guys will go into the parts washer tomorrow. So it's more of a degreasing I did on these, but the parts washer will it'll remove all that staining and all the marks off of the aluminum. For that parts washer, all the initial breakdown stuff, like what I did today, goes in there, and the grit and dirt is okay for to get into the parts washer. So I try to do all the hardware stuff first, and then when we get into the motor, that is when I'm gonna change the fluid out in the parts washer and have fresh fluid in there so that none of that grit, dirt, or anything that we washed off the bike today goes into the motor or even touches it. So, and then what that leaves you with is basically grit-free parts washer fluid to wash whatever you want after the rebuild's over with. So I'm really glad we got that frame fixed today and welded up. That's a big plus. I don't have to worry about that anymore. And from here on out, just waiting for more parts to come in and get this thing bolted back together. Just checked outside and we actually had another box show up today. This one was from Motorsport. So we got a, this is a CRF 450L handlebar switch. I'm gonna implement, I'll end up splicing into here, and I wanted to try to utilize this component in my wiring harness, just because generally Honda stuff's really well made, and try to make it look as stock as I can. So this will be really cool. It's nice. Yeah, plus these things just work better. This is the electric start harness. So this is the new wiring harness for my bike after I put the electric start on it. All brand new stuff. And the fuel injector. So I didn't get a chance yet to talk about this, but I was having issues with fuel getting into my oil, into my crankcase. When I would drain the fuel, I'd measure it, and if I had 1300 cc's of oil and I end up with 1450, there's a problem. So I thought maybe that the fuel injector might be leaking fuel into the engine when it's shut down. So I'm gonna try to replace the fuel injector on this build and see if that fixes it. Other stuff in here, we just got some plastics. This is the red plastics I got from Polysport because I wanted it to try to look more, like the 2022 models, the newer ones that have the red number plates, which I think is pretty cool. And this is a Polysport Motarded fender because you can't have the ones that are long; they flop around too much. So that's our packages for today. Not much else.